ready to do the clap?
This?
Sync the audio, yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure.
Tell us kind of who you are.
Yeah, I'm Liam Donevan. I'm the founder of Neurodose. I founded the microdosing company about 4 years ago now, and now recently have pivoted a little bit, just in terms of where I'm putting my time into Peak Human. So I operate as the CEO at Peak Human, and then I'm just into basically anything human optimization, anything to do better yourself, because I know when I feel clear, grounded, energized, I'm a better, friend, family member, son, and I just think it's important for people to focus on their health.
Nice. Couldn't agree more. Great. So we'll jump right in. What inspired you to enter the psychedelic space from a business perspective?
So I would say more, it wasn't necessarily from the business side of things that inspired me to do it initially. It was from my own mental health battles, where this was about, I think, 5 years ago now. I found myself in a pretty dark depression spot. I just had some very unfortunate life events happen where I lost a best friend to an overdose. My father's Parkinson's was at an all-time worst, where he had toxicity to his brain, unfortunately, from all the pharmaceuticals he was given. And then, I lost my dog a couple months later unexpectedly. So just put me into this state that, it was pretty dark. And then I came across an article actually on Reddit, which said LSD for depression. And I went down a rabbit hole that evening, spent hours just kind of researching it. And it seemed like a little bit too good to be true. It's like, drop a little bit of acid and, you're gonna feel like yourself again. You're gonna get some energy back and it cures your depression. So I texted my dealer that night, got a tab of LSD, I emptied a CBD bottle, and then I gave it a shot the next day, where the first day, it truly felt different that day from all the other days the past couple months. And I felt like I got a little bit of myself back that day. And then I tried it again 2 days later, and I thought to myself, I took 10 micrograms. I thought to myself, I'm like, okay, I felt good with 10 micrograms. Let's try 20 micrograms. And it was a little bit too much, so a little bit too stimulating. And I quickly realized everyone has a sweet spot when it comes to microdosing. And I always encourage people to try different dosages until you find that sweet spot. And when I talk about a sweet spot, it just means enough where you just feel a microdose, but you don't feel overstimulating. And that was kind of the start for me of really realizing these are powerful medicines. And then it got me into other healing modalities, breath work, meditation, float therapy, because it was the first time in my life where I actually felt a sense of peace and presence when I meditated, because beforehand, I've got a pretty ADHD, go brain. So I never felt that sense of peace, where I always thought to myself, meditation isn't for me, breath work isn't for me. But when I had those enhanced experiences with microdosing, I'm like, okay, this is amazing. What other healing modalities can I do? And then the real game changer for me was seeing what it did for my father with Parkinson's, and seeing his tremor improve, his walking improve, and then also his depressive symptoms improve. And once I saw that, I really knew I was supposed to promote these medicines, because back then I was like, why isn't this being talked about? So it actually came more from a sense of my own mental health battles, and then my father's Parkinson's, rather than a business side. And then obviously thinking about, hey, I'm really early in the space, so obviously getting in early has its benefits, but also trailblazing also has some negatives where it's tough to navigate. You don't necessarily have a map. So that's kind of why I started Neurodose.
Amazing. And I guess, you mentioned traditional medicine, and obviously it's a new space where you're trailblazing, it's more or less undiscovered. Along with that comes skepticism.
Yeah.
So how do you handle skepticism when you're, speaking about these alternative health practices or medicines to people who are used to the more traditional?
Yeah, it used to frustrate me just because I had those personal experiences, but I also have to realize that many people haven't had those personal experiences, and they also don't have that education. So now I just really try my best to meet them with love and also just appreciation that maybe they're not necessarily there in their journey, and that's okay. You have to meet someone where they're at. And I just try my best to educate the best way I can and give them different resources. And also I offer free consultations to just try and chat with people about that. And then I also chat to them about, you know, the current medical system. Like, think about how many people are sick in North America and how much money we spend on pharmaceuticals. And if you look at even those kind of statistics, it should make you kind of question, like, is this the best route, or should I be exploring new alternative routes? So yeah, I just try and meet them with love and acceptance the best way I can. And that's definitely not how I used to, because it used to trigger me a bit where, again, I've had those experiences, but they haven't. So.
And through that, people using traditional medicines that have come to you and maybe been a little bit skeptical, have you seen transformations happen? And have you, been on the other side of it from both perspectives, where like you've seen them when they were skeptical and then seen them maybe further on in their healing journey, and what has that been like?
Totally, and that's the motivation of just keep doing what I'm doing, to see that. And even I had a friend today, he was adopted from Guatemala, and he's been struggling just with depression and anxiety for the last few years and had hesitations with it. But he's asked me, he's reached out a few different times, but didn't end up going for it. And he ended up trying it about 2 weeks ago, and I got a message this morning saying, he's like, dude, I've never felt this good. So just getting messages like that is obviously very rewarding. And then just seeing all the different value propositions where I have people with MS, Parkinson's, depression, ADHD, OCD, having just really life-changing events happen from simply microdosing or some deeper dives. And then not only just on like the mental health side and the neurologic disease side, seeing professional athletes take these compounds to improve reaction time, their creativity, and then I have CEOs and founders also taking it to think of their business and problems from a different angle, and that's due to neuroplasticity. And that's really the main thing when you're taking a compound like a microdose or a psychedelic, is neuroplasticity. And for people that don't know what that is, I try and give this analogy where if you think of like a mountaintop that just got like 4 feet of fresh powder, you snowboard down the center of it, you go back up and you snowboard exactly down that same path. That pathway is going to get really, really ingrained. And if you think about someone who's depressed or they have a lot of anxiety, that's kind of like their brain, where they're going to be thinking the same thoughts, like 95% of what they had yesterday, what they're going to have tomorrow. But when you take a microdose, you're actually able to go down the mountain in a different pathway and just even think about circumstances from a different angle. And what psychedelics has also done for me, and I've seen it in others, is be able to reframe negative situations. And I think about even, my father with Parkinson's, or losing a best friend, where for years that was very like touchy and like a very negative thing in my brain. But now I actually see it from a positive light, because now I'm able to help other people going through those same kind of experiences. So
I guess tell us about your mission at Peak Human and a little bit about it.
Yeah, I would say it's to create a movement to empower people to basically give their health back and take control of their health, where I've just seen, many different, the past 10 years, to just see how unjust a lot of, let's say government policies, FDA policies, pharmaceutical policies are. I just really want to, empower people to take their health back into their own hands, and then be able to create a bridgeway for people into peptides. And not just peptides, but what I hope that will do is create a bridgeway into healing in general for others. And then, those are the two main missions for Peak Human for me.
Cool. And I guess speak a little bit more about Peak Human and who it applies to, how it applies.
Yeah, so Peak Human is, we have a physical space, but the main business I'm focusing on is the supplement, the peptide company. So we have a main product called BPC-157. It stands for Body Protective Compound. And I've never seen another molecule have so many value propositions. Well, that, and I would say microdosing. But it was the first thing that actually like cured my gut health. And just seeing what it's done for other people. People have torn their biceps, their Achilles, and they're improving their healing speed by like 300%. So it's really, really fascinating. And I really believe this is like the miracle compound that I'm like betting my career on. So that's what we're focusing on. And then we're working on building out a proprietary blend that's specifically focused on athletic recovery with that compound and then a few other peptides that I can't name quite yet, but I'm very excited about that.
Amazing, amazing. I've got a lot of like personal questions, but I do
Yeah.
want to get into this.
Totally.
Yeah, so you're fundraising, you came here, you're fundraising for Peak Human right now. What is the main reason that you're raising funds?
Yeah, I would say we're in a really good spot right now, which is quite exciting, but raising some capital right now will allow us to do a big inventory run. So we're going to spend probably like $200K on inventory to increase our profit margin from about 73 to 81%. And also we are working on finalizing a contract that will allow us to put BPC, so right now it's in a capsule form, which is about half the bioavailability that you're gonna get from it compared to an injection. So you're gonna take 2 times as much, but this new mechanism called QuickZone technology is gonna allow us to get to the same bioavailability as an injectable, but it's like a Listerine kind of tab that goes underneath your tongue. So we're gonna create IP around that. So very excited about that. And then also just with some rebranding, some funds for conferences and further education, and those are the main kind of things. We're just trying to get a little bit of gas on the fire.
Amazing. So just to speak a little bit more about peptides, maybe can you explain peptides? And you spoke a little bit about it, but why do you believe that peptides are kind of the way of the future, and you're betting so much on it?
Yeah. So a peptide, simple explanation, is essentially a string of amino acids, and if the string is from 1 to 49, it's considered a peptide, and if it's 50 and above, it's considered a protein. And I know that doesn't mean that much to people, but you can think of peptides as little messengers in your body, and we actually have 7,000 naturally produced peptides in our body, each one of us. And as we age, unfortunately, the efficiency of these messengers lessen. So as we age, it's even more important or more valuable to add additional peptides into your body to essentially just give your body like a nudge in the right direction. And what I really like about peptides compared to other compounds, something like, I'm not against testosterone whatsoever, but if you take additional testosterone, it shuts down your natural processes. However, with peptides, it doesn't do that. It actually just helps your natural processes that we are originally created and what they're intended to do. And why I think peptide is the next frontier of health is there is a peptide for everything. Whether or not you have trouble focusing, whether or not you want to be more tanned, whether or not you are depressed, whether or not you want to focus more. I've just never seen supplements or compounds that have so many value propositions that I believe can change people's life really, really quickly. And I truly believe if us humans use peptides properly and psychedelics, we basically wouldn't have use for pharmaceutical compounds. And that's one of the reasons why psychedelics and peptides have been so hush-hush, because of the pharmaceutical companies funding the FDA. And anyways, I don't want to get into that, but that's one of the main reasons. So
you approach it from a nervous system first perspective. What common misunderstandings do you see about microdosing that exist in the wellness space?
Yeah, I think probably the misconception is just take this pill and all your problems will be solved. And I think that's really silly. I think the intention behind the microdose is very, very important. So even just simply taking 5 seconds before you take a capsule and thinking, why am I taking this? What's the goal? Is very, very important. And Also, just from like a nervous system regulation standpoint, like it's so important to regulate yourself before and also after. And I think practices like breathwork, meditation, float therapy has been a game changer for me. And a microdose is a tool in the tool belt. So is peptides, where it's important to try out these different tools, and some tools are going to work a bit better for others. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's like this tool can change your life. I truly believe that. But until you're like actually willing to do some real work that goes along with the microdose, I wouldn't say too many things in your life is going to change. So
It's not the be all end all
yeah,
of these issues, despite what they are.
totally.
It requires some self-work and self-awareness and reflection, things like that.
Yes, and then the integration afterwards, like even in the evening after you've microdosed, like writing in a journal, what went well today, how did I feel? And like I find that very, very important, because then you can look back on your microdose days where you're like, okay, did this actually help? Was I more energized? Was my mental health better? And then usually, at least my experience and my clients, it's a little bit better. So that's kind of encouraging to be able to look back and be like, oh, this is really doing something.
So as long as you're seeing those incremental benefits for people.
That's it, little baby steps.
Yeah. Regulating your nervous system and building emotional resilience are big parts of performing at your best.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, what does that look like for you day to day?
Yeah, I would say it goes into my morning routine and evening routine, and those are very, very important for me, where if I have those dialed in, then I feel really good. If those are off, I find my energy levels, my emotional capacity just kind of tanks a little bit. And morning routine, that entails sunlight, some electrolytes, some creatine, some meditation, sauna, and cold plunge. And some people would be like, oh, like that's a lot, that's pretty intense. But I feel like if you do actually spend that time, you give yourself that love initially in the day, then you're able to pour from a full cup. And then I would actually argue an evening routine to be more valuable than a morning routine. And I say that because of how important sleep is. And in terms of an evening routine, just shutting down your screens an hour before bed. And then I find this one pretty big as well. It's just like no LED lights an hour before bed. Ideally, you turn on like a red light. And then do a little journal, little reading, little prayer. And if you have that dialed in and you're actually consistent with bedtime, you're gonna have a good sleep. When you have a good sleep, you're gonna wake up and you're gonna be more inclined to actually follow your morning routine. So I always tell people, if you're gonna start with like morning or evening, I actually would suggest doing an evening routine.
Wow. I feel like morning is such a, it's a time in which, starting the day right, and, with food and work and everything is kind of based around the morning. So having that perspective of evening, you're almost setting yourself up before your morning.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so with the advancements in technology that are currently happening, which there's obviously a lot, how do you see the future of personalized health optimization evolving in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, this is pretty exciting. I think it's like we're in the best time to ever be alive. I truly believe that. And especially if you're into human optimization, psychedelics, peptides, like the addition of AI and being able to use like wearable data, our blood analysis, our DNA testing. I actually have already built like a ChatGPT with all this information, which is called my human optimization guru. So whenever I read about a new supplement, I just quickly plug into here and say, based on my DNA, my blood analysis, everything you know about my body and my brain, what do you think about this supplement? And it'll give me a breakdown where I should start. Is there any other supplements I should stack it with? And then is there any other kind of modalities that I should do that day to maybe reduce any of the negative side effects, such as like if it's a stimulant, it'll tell me to do some breath work, make sure to do some breath work that day. And in the next 5 to 10 years, like, it's gonna be pretty crazy, where you'll be able to wake up, you'll just look at your phone and it will tell you based on this past week, this past month, your sleep, what supplement you should take that day, how much of that supplement, when you should eat your meals, when you should go to bed, and what modalities you should do and how long. And some people, like, that scares people, but you don't have to obviously follow that information. And I think, you're obviously going to have that option. And a lot of people are scared of AI, but I think you just got to accept like this is happening, and being scared isn't really going to do anything. And I think just utilizing AI and utilizing the value out of it, because obviously it's very, very powerful. And I totally get like some things are like, yeah, fuck, that's a little scary. But from a human optimization standpoint, it's going to be fascinating, because another thing as well, what it will be able to do soon is we're going to be able to build custom peptides based on your DNA. And like that's already starting to happen. And once you have, various different kind of peptides that are built specifically for your DNA, your blood analysis, and you're taking them, like you're going to feel fucking really good all the time. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, and who doesn't want that? Right?
Totally.
Yeah, awesome. All right, 2 more questions here. What does success look like for you at this stage in life?
How many people can I positively impact? Well, also experiencing a large amount of joy every day, I would say, is what success looks like. And then also just from like a freedom standpoint, can I be wherever I want to be in the world with whom I want to be, such as my best friends, and is that possible? So I think like those few things are what success looks like for me.
Amazing. And then one last question. So your life is a book, and each year in your life is a chapter. What is the title of this current chapter that you're in?
I got 2. Building or alignment. Either or, maybe both. Building with alignment. There we go.
Nice. Do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, just like right now, I'm 30. I think, my main goal is financial freedom, and just really building financial freedom for my future family. So I think the next 3 years is really just focused on the business. Like that's number 1 priority right now. And then thinking about family and a girl as well down the road. And then just living and building a company in alignment, and just realizing that quantity doesn't necessarily mean better, as in like hours worked per day, where I think it's really important to take a step back sometimes and think about like, is this decision or, is this direction in alignment with me, with the business? And if so, amazing. But yeah, I think in this day and age for myself, just quality over quantity is super, super important.
Nice. So, yeah, you mentioned that you're betting your career on BPC 157 and peptides. Can you explain what BPC 157 is, and why do you believe this is a miracle?
Yeah, so BPC 157 stands for Body Protective Compound, and it's actually found naturally in our gut. And it's like nicknamed the Wolverine peptide. So its main basis of it is healing. And when you take additional BPC 157, the first thing it does is reduce inflammation in your body, whether or not you have a nagging injury, whether or not your gut health isn't amazing, it's gonna go to those places and heal it. So for me, as I mentioned previously, but that was the first thing that actually made a noticeable impact on my gut. And I dealt with gut issues for like 15 years. I've tried everything, GI mapping tests, multiple different supplements, and just seeing like that actually make a really big change in myself. And then also like my mom, for instance, her arthritis pain is gone now from just taking this capsule. And then I had a friend tear his bicep the other day. Within 5 days taking BPC 157, he's working out fully again. And just seeing all the different value propositions that a simple capsule can fix and help with has been pretty mind-blowing to me. So yeah, those are the few reasons, but I really believe like it's a miracle compound, and if we go down 5 years from now, BPC 157 will be the most popular supplement in the world.
Do you believe that its application is, like, where do you believe that its application is, and why is it going to be the biggest in the world?
Yeah, I think just like purely from all these different problems that it can fix. And like, it's increasing BDNF in the brain, so blood flow. So even from a mental health perspective, it's a game changer. And then for athletics, it really helps with recovery. So that's actually where we're focused, is athletes. And I believe there's like a big gap in the market right now in the peptide space that no one's really tapped into the athletes quite yet. And if you can get athletes to really get behind something that really helps them, a lot of people follow that path, obviously, because obviously they're at, the top of athletics. And yeah, I think just strictly from just so many different value propositions for the compound. And we're like just getting started, and that's just like one peptide, right? And then combining it with some other ones. Another favorite peptide that we'll be combining BPC with is called 5-amino-1Q, and that actually really feels like a microdose from a mental standpoint. So that's why I'm really excited to combine these two peptides, because if you take BPC, you're not gonna necessarily feel much on the first day. It takes, 3 to 7 days in order to feel some effects. But 5-amino-1Q, you feel it the same day. So if someone takes one capsule, they think better, they feel better, and then the BPC will start working within that 3 to 7 day period. And yeah,